The Zyglok Empire didn't see it as a challenge. Why would they? Earth was just another tiny blue-green marble floating in the backwaters of an irrelevant solar system. From their perspective, it was a planet filled with primitive bipeds who still relied on combustion engines to get from place to place. To say the least, the Zygloks were unimpressed. High Commander Xylar Thor, leader of the Zyglok fleet, gazed at Earth through the massive viewport of his flagship, Dominator Primus. His multiple eyes blinked lazily, as if the sight of the planet had already bored him. This was going to be too easy. His empire had conquered worlds 10 times this size in a matter of days. A planet like Earth would fall by lunchtime, with plenty of time for tea after. Pathetic, Xylar Thor muttered, flicking a tentacle dismissively at the holographic display. His second-in-command, a creature with several mouths and not enough brains, snickered in agreement. They have no planetary defenses worth mentioning, Commander Yerk noted, scrolling through the pitiful data on Earth's technology. Their most advanced weapon is, wait for it, nuclear. How quaint. The entire bridge of the Zyglok ship erupted into laughter, a chorus of gurgling, slurping sounds. To them, Earth's nuclear arsenal was about as threatening as a child waving a sparkler. Xylar Thor clicked a few buttons on the command console, magnifying the image of Earth's surface. Strange, he muttered to himself. There seems to be something odd about them. Odd? Yerk asked, tilting one of his primary heads. You mean the fact that they still use stone tools in some parts of their world? No, Xylar Thor said, narrowing his many eyes. It's their expressions. Look at them. They don't seem scared. They're, casual. Indeed, the humans on screen were not panicking at the sight of the alien fleet blotting out the sky. No, in fact, many of them were continuing with their daily routines, people walking dogs, talking on cell phones, and sipping coffee at sidewalk cafes. A few even pointed up at the fleet with mild curiosity, as if they were watching a particularly slow airplane. This species, Xylar Thor growled, does not understand who they are dealing with. His tentacles danced over the console, activating the global transmission system. Send a message to their leaders, he commanded. Make it clear that their time is up. The Zyglok Empire has arrived. They will either kneel or be crushed. Yerk tapped a few more buttons, grinning. Done. The message has been broadcast to all their major governments. I give them 15 minutes to surrender. Xylar Thor nodded, satisfied. The outcome was obvious. The humans would beg for mercy, their leaders would offer whatever resources the Zygloks wanted, and the Empire would leave, having added yet another planet to its growing collection. Easy. Too easy. He was already thinking about which nebula resort he would vacation in next after this tiresome mission was complete. But the humans' response wasn't immediate. In fact, there was no response for quite some time. The Zyglok bridge crew began to fidget. After 20 minutes, a single communication came through. Xylar Thor leaned forward, eager to hear the terrified cries of Earth's leaders. The screen flickered to life. A man wearing an ill-fitting suit and an exhausted expression stared blankly at them. He took a sip from a large cup with the word coffee emblazoned across it in bold letters. So, you guys want something? The man asked, as if dealing with an overly persistent telemarketer. Xylar Thor blinked, twice. He replayed the message in his mind to make sure he heard it correctly. What did he just... Yeah, I guess I'm supposed to handle this. The president's busy with some meeting thing, but he'll get back to you later. So, what's the deal? The man continued, looking more concerned with finding something in his desk than addressing the galactic threat in front of him. Xylar Thor's tentacles stiffened with disbelief. What? He slammed his fist on the armrest of his command chair, causing the entire bridge to fall silent. Yerk stepped forward cautiously. Perhaps we should broadcast a demonstration of power, my lord. A small city, maybe, to show them we mean business? Xylar Thor nodded, still bristling with indignation. Do it. Show them what happens when they mock the Zyglok Empire. As Yerk turned to give the command, the human on screen held up a finger, his brow furrowing as if something just occurred to him. Oh, by the way, the man said, you might want to move your ship a little. There's some stuff up in orbit you're real close to. What is he talking about? Xylar Thor hissed, just as the ship jolted violently. Alarms blared. Several crew members toppled over as the massive flagship shuddered from an unexpected impact. On the view screen, Xylar Thor saw the culprit, a satellite. Yerk hurried to the controls, trying to regain stability. It appears we've collided with some kind of human orbital debris, Commander. The human on screen winced in mock sympathy. Yeah, we got a lot of junk up there. Good luck with that. Xylar Thor's eyes twitched, barely containing his rage. These creatures were going to pay for this insult. Xylar Thor seethed in his command chair, tentacles twitching with frustration. To collide with mere space junk? This was an embarrassment the Zyglok Empire had never faced before. The mighty Dominator Primus, brought to a halt by something humans probably threw out the window of their spaceships. He glared at the screen, where the human was still sipping from his coffee cup, oblivious to the seriousness of the situation. Fix it, Xylar Thor barked at his crew. And prepare the next phase of the invasion. We'll show them what happens when they don't take the Zyglok Empire seriously. Yes, Commander. Yerk scrambled to repair the damage, while the crew launched into action. The plan had been simple. Too simple, really. Send a message to Earth's leaders demanding their unconditional surrender. If they refused, destroy a city or two to demonstrate the Zyglok's power. Once they saw what they were up against, resistance would crumble, and Earth would be added to the Empire without a fight. Easy. But these humans weren't behaving as expected. They weren't running in fear, organizing armies, or even acknowledging the Zyglok's superiority. Instead, they were treating this invasion like an annoyance. Xylar Thor couldn't decide if this was a sign of human stupidity or something else. Commander, communications from several human governments have been intercepted, Yerk announced. They're debating how to respond. Debating? Xylar Thor's tentacles slammed against the armrest. Debating what? Whether they should surrender or be annihilated. Fools, they should be on their knees by now. Yerk hesitated, then added, they seem to think this is some kind of prank or an elaborate hoax. What? Xylar Thor's voice echoed through the bridge, causing several underlings to flinch. They believe this is a joke? The Zyglok commander leaned forward, his many eyes narrowing with menace. We will show them what a joke looks like when it's obliterated from orbit. Prepare to destroy New York City. Yes, Commander. Yerk immediately initiated the targeting sequence. A digital map of Earth appeared on the massive view screen, zooming in on a dense cluster of lights on the eastern coast of North America. Wait, Yerk said, frowning at the map. We've got interference. Something is blocking our targeting system. More space junk? Xylar Thor spat, exasperated. Worse. Yerk tapped the screen, and a series of strange icons appeared. Their atmosphere is cluttered with signals, billions of them. They're using primitive satellites, radio waves, and Commander, they're broadcasting something called reality TV in more directions than I can count. Xylar Thor's tentacles curled in disgust. Reality TV? Is that a weapon? I don't think so. Yerk looked confused. But it's clogging up our systems. We're unable to get a clear lock on any of their cities. Fine, Xylar Thor snapped. We'll do this the old-fashioned way. Prepare the ground troops. We'll send in a battalion to crush them on the surface. If they want to pretend this is some kind of joke, we'll see who's laughing when we turn their cities to rubble. The crew immediately set to work. Orders were relayed across the fleet, and soon, hundreds of landing ships were primed and ready. The Zyglok ground forces were legendary, known for their ruthlessness and efficiency. They had crushed dozens of worlds with nothing more than their massive size, brute strength, and advanced weaponry. Xylar Thor was certain they would do the same to Earth. Our soldiers will land in strategic locations, Yerk explained as he adjusted the holographic map of Earth. New York, Tokyo, London, Paris. Once these key cities fall, the rest of the planet will collapse in chaos. The plan was flawless. Xylar Thor watched with smug satisfaction as the first wave of landing ships launched from the Dominator Primus. They shot through Earth's atmosphere like a meteor storm, leaving trails of fire behind them. This was the beginning of humanity's end. The Zyglok Empire would stand victorious by sundown. Contact the humans, Xylar Thor ordered. Inform them that their time is up. Our forces will land within minutes, and there will be no mercy. Yerk sent the transmission, but this time no human appeared on screen. Instead, a burst of static filled the bridge, followed by a strange, rhythmic noise. "Commander, the humans seem to be playing music?" Xylar Thor squinted at the screen. Indeed, the transmission had been hijacked by a bizarre broadcast of loud, pulsating sounds. A human voice chanted over the noise, "Eye of the Tiger, it's the thrill of the fight!" "What is this?" Xylar Thor growled. "It appears to be some kind of anthem," Yerk guessed, though he looked uncertain. "A song they play to prepare for battle, perhaps?" Xylar Thor's tentacles coiled with rage. "So they think they can mock us with this noise? No matter. Our soldiers will make quick work of them. The joke will be over soon enough." As the first landing ships touched down on Earth, the Zyglok troops disembarked, fully prepared to subjugate the planet. Their armor gleamed in the daylight, their massive bodies towering over the human population. They expected resistance. They expected terror. Instead, what they got was utter chaos. In New York, the Zyglok soldiers found themselves in the middle of what the humans called Times Square, surrounded by flashing neon signs, towering screens, and a crowd of confused tourists. One of the Zyglok soldiers, an enormous brute named Gorthak, took a step forward, activating his energy cannon. "Submit or be destroyed," he bellowed in his deep, gravelly voice. A group of humans, dressed in colorful costumes and carrying signs, glanced at Gorthak, then turned back to each other. One of them, a man in a superhero outfit, waved dismissively. "Dude, cool costume," the man said. "Comic-Con's down the street, though." "Comic-Con?" Gorthak repeated, unsure of what this meant. Before he could ask further, a woman shoved a camera in his face. "Oh my God, can I get a selfie with you?" she squealed, her phone already clicking away. Gorthak froze, utterly baffled. He had expected screams of fear, not requests for pictures. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, another Zyglok unit found themselves equally confused. They had landed in a bustling city center, where humans crowded around food stalls, arcades, and vending machines. A Zyglok lieutenant raised his plasma rifle, shouting, "Kneel before the might of the—" "Hold up," shouted a human voice. "You guys want to try some takoyaki?" The Zyglok soldiers paused, looking at the small spherical objects the human was offering on a skewer. "It's like fried octopus," the man explained, grinning. "Delicious. You're gonna love it." The lieutenant stared at the offering, then at his squad. None of them had any idea what to do. Back in London, the situation was no different. A Zyglok warrior, standing at attention outside Buckingham Palace, growled, "Bow before your new rulers." A crowd of tourists with cameras snapped pictures of the warrior. One child tugged on his leg, asking, "Mister, are you a robot?" What?" the warrior stammered, completely lost. Xylar Thor watched from his command center, his many eyes widening in disbelief. His mighty forces, his elite warriors were being ignored? High Commander Xylar Thor was having a very bad day. From his position aboard the Dominator Primus, he stared at the live feed of his landing forces. What he saw was beyond infuriating. It was confusing. His mighty Zyglok soldiers, the terror of dozens of worlds, were not laying waste to the human cities. No, they were being greeted like, what was that human phrase? Tourist attractions. What is happening down there?" Xylar Thor screeched, his voice echoing through the bridge. His tentacles slapped the console, causing several nearby officers to flinch. "Yerk, I need an explanation now." Yerk, who had been nervously monitoring the invasion from the safety of the command deck, glanced up with a look of sheer bewilderment. "Commander, it appears that the humans are unafraid. Our soldiers are being approached for pictures, autographs, and street food." Xylar Thor's tentacles froze mid-swing. "Street food?" he repeated, as if the words themselves made no sense. Yerk tapped a few buttons, bringing up footage from Tokyo. A squad of Zyglok warriors, each standing over 8 feet tall, clad in battle armor and bristling with weapons, were crowded around a small food stand. The vendor was handing out skewers of fried something. And the Zygloks were just standing there, looking at the offerings in what could only be described as complete and utter confusion. "This is insanity!" Xylar Thor shouted, turning to face the entire bridge. "Where is the fear? Where is the devastation? We are the Zyglok Empire. We are to be worshipped or feared. The humans," Yerk began hesitantly, "do not seem to grasp the concept of imminent destruction, Commander." Xylar Thor was about to explode in rage when a loud metallic clang echoed through the bridge. He whipped around to face the view screen, where the live feed from New York was still rolling. There, in Times Square, Gorthak, one of the Zyglok's finest warriors, was engaged in what appeared to be a dance-off with a street performer. "What is Gorthak doing?" Eiler Thor demanded, his voice shaking with fury. Gorthak, the enormous brute known for his unparalleled strength, had discarded his energy cannon and was now attempting to mimic the moves of a human breakdancer. A crowd of onlookers had formed around him, clapping and cheering. "Yo, alien guy," one of the humans shouted. "Not bad, but let's see you hit the windmill." Gorthak paused, attempting to rotate his massive armored body in a tight circle on the ground. He failed miserably, toppling over with a loud crash that shook the entire block. The crowd erupted in laughter, snapping photos and taking videos with their phones. Xylar Thor's tentacles trembled with a mix of rage and disbelief. This was not how invasions were supposed to go. His forces were supposed to inspire terror, not amusement. "Get me Gorthak on the line now," he bellowed. Yerk quickly activated the communications link, and Gorthak's embarrassed face appeared on the screen, upside down. He was clearly still lying on the pavement. "Commander," Gorthak said, his deep voice filled with confusion. I don't know what's happening. I tried to demand their surrender, but these humans, they just keep challenging me to dances." "Dances?" Xylar Thor's eyes bulged with rage. "You are not here to dance, Gorthak! You are here to conquer!" Gorthak struggled to sit up, knocking over a hot dog cart in the process. "I know, Commander, but they don't seem to understand. I told them to submit or face annihilation, and they handed me this." He held up a large pretzel. Xylar Thor's jaw dropped. "A pretzel?" "Yes, Commander," Gorthak confirmed, looking genuinely perplexed. "They said it was a peace offering." The bridge was silent for a moment as everyone processed this absurd turn of events. Xylar Thor's tentacles twitched violently. He could feel his control over the situation slipping through his grasp. He needed to act, fast. "Order all ground units to regroup," Xylar Thor commanded, his voice a low growl. "This ridiculous charade ends now. We are not here to participate in their ridiculous customs. We are here to conquer." Yerk relayed the order, and the Zyglok troops across Earth began receiving instructions to retreat to their landing zones. In London, a group of Zyglok soldiers begrudgingly handed back the fish and chips they had been offered by a local vendor. In Tokyo, the lieutenant politely declined another helping of takoyaki before marching his confused squad back to their transport. In New York, Gorthak abandoned his pretzel and reluctantly stomped away from the crowd, which groaned in disappointment. "All right, Commander," Yerk said, after ensuring that the recall order had been sent. "All units are withdrawing to their ships. What is the next phase of the plan?" Xylar Thor, still fuming, turned his many eyes toward the screen. "We regroup, we reassess, and then we crush these humans properly." Suddenly, a new alert popped up on the main console. "Commander," Yerk said, squinting at the incoming transmission. "It's another message from the humans. This one looks official." Xylar Thor leaned forward, eager to hear what Earth's leaders had to say now that they had witnessed the might of the Zyglok Empire, minus the dancing and the street food, of course. The transmission flickered to life, revealing a group of humans in suits, standing behind a podium. The backdrop displayed the logo of some official organization called the UN, whatever that meant. The man at the center cleared his throat and looked directly into the camera. "To the aliens currently hovering in Earth's orbit," the human began in a serious tone, "we have received your demands for surrender. After careful consideration, we have reached a consensus." Xylar Thor's eyes narrowed. Finally, they were going to get what they deserved. The groveling, the submission, the total surrender of an entire planet. The human leaned closer to the camera, his expression unreadable. "We, the people of Earth, have one thing to say to you." Xylar Thor waited, his entire body tensing in anticipation. This was it, the moment of victory. The human took a deep breath, and then, with a completely straight face, he said, "No." The transmission cut off. Xylar Thor blinked, twice. Then his tentacles erupted in a fit of uncontrolled rage, slamming against every available surface. "What do you mean, no?" he roared, nearly overturning his command chair. "How dare they refuse us?" Yerk looked like he wanted to disappear into his console. "Commander, I don't know what to say. It seems they don't take our threat seriously." Xylar Thor's fury boiled over. They will pay for this insolence. Prepare all remaining forces. If these humans won't surrender, we will wipe them from existence." The bridge buzzed with activity as Yerk and the crew scrambled to follow orders. The Zyglok Empire had never been refused before. They had never faced an enemy who dared to say no. But Xylar Thor was determined. This was not over. "Send everything we have," Xylar Thor growled. "Leave no humans standing." As the final wave of Zyglok forces prepared to descend on Earth, Xylar Thor's eyes blazed with a singular thought. They wouldn't last a day. Xylar Thor's blood boiled. Never in his long career as a conqueror had he faced such an outrageous response. No wasn't just unacceptable, it was incomprehensible. Yet here he was, watching his once mighty Zyglok forces being treated like street performers and food critics on a planet they were supposed to dominate. It was beyond humiliating. "We're going all in," he snarled, his many eyes glaring at the battle monitors. "Every last soldier, every ship, this planet will be ours by force, or it will be turned into rubble." But as the invasion escalated, things started getting weirder. The landing crafts deployed wave after wave of Zyglok troops into cities across the globe. Yet, rather than the terrified screams of a population under siege, all Xylar Thor could hear were honking cars? Laughter? Was that cheering? "Commander," Yerk said nervously, "we've deployed the bulk of our forces, but we're encountering, unanticipated resistance." Xylar Thor whipped around. "Resistance? What resistance? Show me!" Yerk reluctantly brought up the footage from the battlefield, or what should have been a battlefield. On the screen, in what appeared to be some sort of large public park, a group of Zyglok warriors stood in formation, ready for battle. But instead of facing armed forces, they were being swarmed by joggers. Humans in brightly colored athletic gear were running toward them, not away. Several of the Zyglok soldiers looked utterly bewildered as people zipped past them, some even giving the aliens encouraging thumbs up. "Keep it up, guys," a jogger shouted as she passed a hulking Zyglok brute. "You're doing great." Another human slowed down just long enough to snap a quick selfie with one of the armored warriors before running off. The Zyglok soldiers exchanged confused glances, unsure if they were being attacked or applauded. "What is this?" Xylar Thor hissed, his tentacles writhing in frustration. "Are they mocking us?" Yerk cleared his throat. "It appears they are participating in some sort of event. A marathon, I believe it's called. The humans are running for recreation. Commander." Xylar Thor's eyes twitched. He could feel a blood vessel in one of his heads preparing to burst. "Running? For recreation? In the middle of an invasion?" "Yes, Commander. And it seems they think our troops are part of it." Xylar Thor stared at the screen in disbelief as a human child handed a Zyglok warrior a small cup of water. The warrior, clearly unsure of what to do, glanced at his squad leader, who shrugged. The child ran off, cheering, "You got this, alien dude." This is chaos," Xylar Thor spat. "Our soldiers are being overrun by social events." The situation was no better in other parts of the planet. In Paris, Zyglok troops had taken over the famous Champs-Élysées, preparing to march toward the city's landmarks. But instead of panic, they were greeted by a sea of cameras and delighted tourists. One particularly enthusiastic human ran up to the Zyglok commander and draped a sash over his shoulders. "Congratulations," the human said in broken Zyglokian. "You're the 100th cosplayer of the day. Here's your prize." The Zyglok commander blinked in confusion as he looked down at the sash, which read "Best Alien Costume First Place" in glittering letters. Before he could protest, a group of humans surrounded him, snapping photos and giving him polite applause. In Brazil, a squad of Zyglok soldiers found themselves in the middle of a massive street party, complete with music, dancing, and vibrant decorations. The Zygloks, towering over the crowd, stood there awkwardly, trying to understand what was happening. A human handed one of the soldiers a strange feathered headdress, which he reluctantly accepted. Another Zyglok warrior was pulled into the crowd and forced to dance. The horror on his face was clear, but his feet were moving in sync with the beat. Back aboard the Dominator Primus, Xylar Thor watched the chaos unfold with growing disbelief. "This is impossible," he screamed, slamming his fists on the console. "Our forces should be crushing these humans. Instead, they're parading around with them." Yerk shifted uncomfortably. "It seems, Commander, that the humans are exceptionally unpredictable." That's an understatement, Xylar Thor muttered darkly. He glared at the screen, where yet another Zyglok warrior was being offered some sort of strange beverage in a coconut shell. How do they not understand we're here to destroy them? Yerk hesitated before offering, Perhaps, Commander. They don't take us seriously. Xylar Thor's eyes narrowed dangerously. Not take us seriously. How could they possibly? But he was interrupted by another incoming transmission. Yerk quickly opened the channel, and the screen was once again filled with the image of a human in a suit. This time, the man looked even more bored than before, as if he had been dragged away from something much more interesting than an alien invasion. Yeah, hey, the man said, glancing down at some notes in his hand. So, we got your latest message about total annihilation and all that. But listen, we're kind of busy down here right now. It's Taco Tuesday, you know? Big deal. Anyway, can we reschedule this whole conquest thing for, next week? Maybe Thursday? Xylar Thor's brain almost shut down entirely. What? The man nodded, not seeming to notice Xylar Thor's rising fury. Yeah, we've got a lot going on. And to be honest, this invasion thing just isn't a priority at the moment. If you could come back later, that'd be great. Oh, and don't forget to check out the taco specials. They're amazing. The transmission ended. For a full 30 seconds, the bridge was completely silent. Xylar Thor sat frozen, his eyes locked on the blank screen. He had faced powerful enemies before, entire star systems that had fought to the death rather than submit. But this was different. These humans didn't just refuse to surrender, they refused to acknowledge the invasion. Yerk cleared his throat nervously. Commander, what do we do now? Xylar Thor's tentacles twitched, and for the first time in his long, storied career, he felt something unfamiliar. Helplessness. We must regroup, he muttered, almost to himself. We must reassess. These humans are more dangerous than we thought. Yerk blinked. Dangerous, sir? Xylar Thor's eyes narrowed. Yes, they're not afraid of us, and if they're not afraid, we have no leverage. This planet is chaos incarnate. The words hung in the air. Chaos. Xylar Thor had been prepared for resistance, battles, strategies, defiance. But this, how did you conquer a world that didn't even acknowledge it was being invaded? Yerk nodded slowly, clearly sensing his commander's growing anxiety. Perhaps, Commander, we should retreat, just temporarily, to, reconsider our strategy. Xylar Thor ground his teeth. Retreat? The mighty Zyglok Empire didn't retreat. But looking at the footage of his elite soldiers being force-fed hot dogs and forced into impromptu street performances, he realized there was no other choice. Fine, he growled, the words tasting like acid. Recall all forces. We'll return to orbit and reassess our options. Yerk hesitated before speaking again. Sir, you may want to avoid saying the word retreat on the record. Maybe strategic withdrawal. Xylar Thor glared at him. Just do it. As the order went out and Zyglok's soldiers around the planet began their slow, bewildered retreat, one thing became clear to Xylar Thor. Earth was no ordinary conquest. It was a nightmare. Xylar Thor paced back and forth in front of the command console, his many eyes fixed on the monitors displaying the orderly, no, humiliating retreat of his once mighty forces. All around the planet, Zyglok warriors were withdrawing from human cities, looking less like fearsome conquerors and more like tired employees at the end of a terrible shift. It had all gone wrong. And the worst part? He still couldn't figure out why. This was supposed to be simple, he muttered under his breath, tentacles twitching with agitation. Land, crush resistance, install planetary governance. But these humans... Sir, Yerk said carefully from the command station, the last of our ground forces are reboarding the ships. We should be fully disengaged in 10 minutes. Xylar Thor scowled. 10 minutes felt like an eternity when all he wanted to do was leave this cursed planet behind. Good, he snapped. Once they're on board, we'll jump to hyperspace. I want this solar system behind us as soon as possible. Yes, Commander, Yerk replied, though there was an unmistakable tremor in his voice. No one on the bridge dared to look Xylar Thor in the eyes. The shame was palpable. The Zyglok High Commander turned his attention back to the battlefeeds. In New York, Gorthak was leading his troops back to the landing craft, his head hanging in shame as human children waved goodbye to him. In London, the Zyglok warriors were trudging past Buckingham Palace, one of them still wearing the best alien costume sash he hadn't bothered to remove. And in Rio de Janeiro, Well, it was best not to think about what had happened there. Xylar Thor clenched his tentacles into fists. How did it come to this? He asked aloud, though no one dared answer. A small beep interrupted his thoughts. Another incoming transmission. Now what? He growled. More taco specials? Yerk cautiously tapped the console, bringing up the transmission. This time, it wasn't an official human representative, but a man with a scruffy beard and a baseball cap, sitting in a cluttered room full of electronics. Behind him was a large poster that read, Alien Invasion Livestream. Subscribe now. Hey, alien dudes, the man said, giving a little wave. I just wanted to say, this invasion was hilarious. Seriously, this is the best thing that's happened all year. You guys gotta come back next time, do a sequel or something. Xylar Thor's tentacles froze midair. Anyway, the human continued, completely unaware of the commander's internal meltdown. Just wanted to let you know, I got a ton of footage of your soldiers at Comic-Con. It's blowing up online. You guys are like viral superstars now. I've already got 1 million views. Thanks for that, by the way. Oh, and if you want to see yourself in action, check out my channel. Don't forget to smash that like button. The screen went black. For a long, painful moment, the bridge was utterly silent. Then slowly, Xylar Thor turned to face Yerk. Did that human just monetize our invasion? Yerk cleared his throat. It would appear so, Commander. A low, strangled sound escaped Xylar Thor's many throats. The Zyglok Empire, reduced to internet entertainment, Yerk wisely said nothing. Another alert pinged on the console. Commander, Yerk said, as if he wished he didn't have to report the next bit of news, it appears there are now invasion memes circulating across their global network. They've taken images of our troops and added humorous captions. Xylar Thor's tentacles drooped. Humorous captions. Yerk nodded grimly. One of them says, when the aliens invade, but you gotta finish Taco Tuesday first. Xylar Thor felt a wave of nausea. The Zyglok Empire, conqueror of worlds, reduced to a joke on a species-wide comedy circuit. How was this possible? How could everything have spiraled out of control so quickly? The answer was simple. They had underestimated humanity. Not in terms of technology, but in terms of sheer unpredictability. These creatures didn't react with fear or rage. They reacted with indifference, humor, and a complete disregard for the usual rules of war. How did you fight a species that didn't even take you seriously? His thoughts were interrupted by a final message from the humans. The screen flickered to life once more, showing the same bored-looking official who had earlier requested a postponement of the invasion. Yeah, just one last thing before you guys leave, the man said, flipping through a few papers. We're gonna go ahead and file this under hilarious misunderstanding instead of invasion, so no hard feelings, right? Also, if you ever feel like coming back, maybe give us a heads up next time? You know, so we can prepare a proper welcome. We love a good parade. Xylar Thor's tentacles twitched. He had never felt such a combination of rage and helplessness in his life. Parade? He bellowed, nearly toppling the command console with his frustration. The human on screen blinked, then gave a half-hearted shrug. Oh, and one more thing, he said, as if it were an afterthought. Don't forget your trash in orbit. That satellite you hit? Yeah, it's gonna cost someone to clean that up. Just FYI. The screen flickered off. Xylar Thor stood there, trembling with rage, his empire's forces still retreating from Earth, with their metaphorical tails between their legs. This was not just a failure. It was the greatest humiliation the Zyglok Empire had ever suffered. Not a single shot fired, and they were leaving in defeat. A defeat so absurd, no other world would ever believe it. Commander, Yerk said cautiously, all ground forces are aboard. We are ready to depart. Xylar Thor took a deep breath, forcing down his fury. Take us out of orbit, he ordered through gritted teeth, and wipe this planet from our navigation records. We were never here. Yerk nodded and began the preparations for hyperspace jump. As the Dominator Primus slowly pulled away from Earth's orbit, Xylar Thor glanced back at the blue-green planet on the view screen. A part of him wanted to fire one last shot, just to show the humans they weren't untouchable. But another part, the part that had witnessed Zyglok soldiers being treated like cosplayers, dancers, and taco lovers, knew it was pointless. These humans, they were a species unlike any other. They couldn't be conquered, not in the traditional sense. They were chaotic, ridiculous and infuriatingly casual about their own survival. Xyler Thor sank into his command chair, defeated. As the ship jumped to hyperspace, leaving Earth behind, he could only think one thing: never again.